Ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, olúwa mi ò dìde ojú
The Ashen Forge. The Ashen Forge.
Hello and welcome to the Ashen Forge. I am Phantom X, joined as always by Diggs and the legendary Neurotoxin. I'm a little rusty. Apparently, we haven't done this for a couple of weeks, and there was a little goof at the beginning there, but we're good. How y'all doing?
Doing all right.
I'm tired. I haven't recovered from 17 hours of
dancing.
Uh-huh.
This guy.
Thursday off. I had a dance party from 2 to 4 today, and then I've got another one after the show from 7 to 10 or something like that I'm supposed to go to. Different studio. I was out until midnight Friday. So I did take a day off on Thursday. I did not dance on Thursday, but I'm old. I should not be dancing that much, but there we go.
Or you need to be dancing more to keep building up the endurance for it. It's one way or the other.
Oh, yeah, there's lots of endurance, believe me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well,
yeah. Other than that, but I've been starting to learn C++ and
all right,
working on getting my little demo reel employment-y things together, which has been kind of fighting with and learning how to do After Effects again, which has been a while since I've tried to do something with it. So a little bit of a learning curve, but I got it mostly together now. So treat the queue.
Well, we were chatting about. Do what?
I'm gonna ask you something real quick. There's been some amount of talk in our groups, and I'm not gonna go too much into a completely different game, but some interest in this Wayfinder game. Looks like it's rough around the edges. Looks like there might be login queues here and there, but
early access. So.
Yeah,
not queues are fixed.
Oh well, fantastic. Maybe I should actually jump in then.
Yeah, no, that was
the main thing I was worried about with it, because I was seeing a lot of that in the reviews. But yeah, looks fun. I've been seeing a bunch of other people. Lethality, if you watch the other shows that we do, the other show we do, the Chronicles of Pax Day. I've been seeing him pretty active with it too, and it's published by someone who I like. And congrats, Digital Extremes. 30 years of y'all and 10 years of your Tenno. So good stuff there. Little roundabout set of shout outs there. And other than that, I'm not saying, I'm not endorsing this game as hey, you go buy it and check it out or anything like that. I'm slightly more interested, and I've been seeing people in our chats talking about it, playing it. So, you might actually find a game that I might be playing with everybody pretty soon.
Yeah, it's been initially. It's actually a great tie into Alpha 2, and probably what Steven worries about that and Palia. But the queues at the beginning were awful. So the way I understand it, Airship Syndicate's doing the game, but Digital Extremes was there really for the publishing and maybe some of the networking.
And some other advice. I think they help with some lore stuff. Like, if I remember correctly, they were like buddy sort of folk. That some of them have known each other for a little while. It isn't just like, hey, you guys do a good thing, or you guys do a good thing. I think they had some prior relationship one way or another.
No, but it's very much early access. But yeah, initially we were trying to figure this out. You had queue times. Well, actually, the timer wasn't even working. So, you'd log in and you were like number 30,000 in place, and it would take anywhere from 2 to 4 hours to actually get in queue, and then of course you get booted out, and it was very unstable. and there's a lot of zone changes. So every time you tried to actually didn't go into the housing component for several days because I was worried I'd get kicked out. I mean, I'd get kicked out by something else anyways, but they've stabilized that actually really well. I've not had any disconnects at all. And there's like maybe a small, you're number 15 in line or 20 in line. It was a little confusing. We were trying to figure out, because they actually in their Discord, side note, they mentioned that their server capacity was 10,000. And we're like, well, how do you only plan for 10,000 people, like in total, cross Steam, cross PS5? I'm not so sure how much of the stability at this point is from their server fixes versus how much of it is people just refunded and have moved on. If you look at the Steam charts, it's been a constant dive, but I mean, they're stable now, so it's been okay. You asked me earlier, like, what is it that's interesting? That's hard to explain. I don't even really have a great way to answer that, because it is still buggy. It is still very much, there's like placeholders. There was somebody, I think it was on a Reddit post, screenshotted, there's this one character model that is literally everywhere. And they're like, I want to know who this man is because he's everywhere. So there's still a lot of work to be done. But I think it has the beginnings of an interesting game. I have a hard time. It's certainly not an MMORPG. Hard time calling it an MMO. It feels very much like Guild Wars, how you have sort of a central hub that you can interact with people, and then you would go off on sort of group-based dungeon dives. Basically, it's groups of 3, so you're with 2 other players. So,
you know, that's funny because that was one of the issues I had with original Guild Wars first run marketing, calling it an MMO. It's like, no, a shared hub. If you're just doing a shared hub, but you're only instancing out 4 people at a time, that's not an MMO. That's a multi. I'll call it a multiplayer co-op game, but you're not doing anything differently than BattleNet with the chat, except you've got a trade interface to it. Great, you know. All right, BattleNet needed a trade interface. That was one of the problems with it. So you solved that problem. Fantastic. Okay, other than that, like, it's not an MMO just because you've got a common hub where you can use the jump emoji. You didn't even have a real jump in that game. Yeah, so that is something since then and ever forward. I resist the term MMO for something where it's group hubs, but basically just small co-op parties going out.
Yeah, I mean,
if I go to the Wayfinder site, they say they're an online action role-playing game. They don't seem to say they're an MMO.
Yeah,
Steam does.
Yeah,
Steam has it tagged under
Steam's wrong.
There's one area called the Highlands where you are in a shared space. It's small, it's fairly small, but outside of that, the next larger zone, I think it's, what's it called, Silent Woods or something like that, is actually not. It's a shared space, but there's no combat whatsoever. You're just running from NPC to portal to wherever you're trying to get to. So, I mean, it's. I think it's interesting. I don't know if anybody played Dauntless, but
a little bit.
I think we played a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I like the idea of it.
It's going to go. I mean, it'll be free to play, supposedly in 6 months. So, if you don't want a buggy ass game, just wait at this point. But it's fun to explore. Lethality and I have been joining up as we could. So.
Yeah,
but we are not a Wayfinder coverage team. So, although I do think it ties in, I want to point out Wayfinder and Palia. Palia is not released, right? Is it still considered beta?
Oh, it's still early access and beta. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think there have been 2 incredibly great examples of why it has taken so many years to get to Alpha 2. Because I don't care what anybody says. People play a game. If you can say this is pre-alpha, they're going to say this game is shit. You released and it's terrible. Why did I pay money for this? It's like, well, no, it's still in development. These are 2 incredibly good examples of why it has taken so long for Steven to say, all right, let's go ahead and put this out there for people to see. I mean, granted, some of it's self-inflicted. I mean, I don't know how Wayfinder, I don't know how you expect only 10,000 people. Their beta, I guess when you look, because you can actually see their closed beta or their open beta on Steam charts, and it was like 8,500. So I guess there's maybe a reason to say didn't think you get 10,000 people, but the game itself is okay. But anyways, that's a tangent. So.
Well, it's just an interesting thing because I think especially with Unreal Engine assets, these games look great. They look like they'll be fun to explore. And that's what kind of grabs people. Oh my God, it looks so good. I want to run around there. That doesn't mean the gameplay is really ready for you. And there might be stuff for you to do. But that doesn't mean that you're really going to have fun playing the game if it's still in alpha. It can look great and you can do a bunch of stuff. That doesn't mean that, you're actually going to have fun playing it when it's still in a kind of testing phase. And really an early development phase still.
But, yeah. I know there's a collection of us, of other groups, Tangents of Creation, some of these other people that cover the game. They're 100% understand this is Alpha 2. In Discord, the vast majority of everyone in Discord and on the forums. But we're really a minority of who's going to be exposed to this once they go to Alpha 2. And so I can 100%, after watching Discord, just some of the nastiest shit you could ever think to read. And Palia too. I mean, I feel like both Palia and the Wayfinder Discords were very poorly managed from a CM perspective, and I don't know why that was. So yeah, I can't imagine, or I can't imagine what Steven is worried about at night when he's thinking about recently opening up Alpha 2. So, which is why I still say I bet they wish they could go back and say, we're going to do some of this under NDA. And not entirely open. So.
Yeah, and it sounds like they are doing some of that under NDA because it sounds like they're probably doing some spot testing and not letting us know whether or not they're even doing spot testing. That seemed to be what Steven was alluding to when he was on with us. And I think he learned that from Margaret because he said it's a market. If we put our marketing hat on, we shouldn't talk about spot testing. So,
but we have a few things to, I guess, catch up on. We will try and, I could go into nodes, but as the next live stream,
feel free to go into nodes if you want to. You don't have to not talk about nodes.
That's the big thing coming up.
And nodes.
Yes. Probably the biggest thing next to Alpha 2 that they could showcase, in my opinion. That's what everyone's waiting for. That is what sets this apart from everyone else. And the previous things we've seen, I think, have been fairly generic. Like there was nothing neat about them. So this is going to be a all or nothing sort of thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, it's either going to be all or nothing, or it's, hey, here's all the different ways and possibilities and avenues and stuff we've been thinking about. Now we need your feedback to determine which way we're going to go. I don't expect that's actually what it's going to be. Like I had said, maybe it was an episode or two ago, perhaps we should be saying in Bill we trust, because I'm definitely eager to see what his developments have brought to the table, taking the stuff that had initially been set up while Jeff Bard was on the team, seeing how it's kind of moved and shifted since Steven's been kind of at the helm of things for a little bit, and then seeing what Bill has been able to kind of take from all of that and re-solidify it into, more of the system that we need it to be. So whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. I'm not going to say like Bill Tross is the greatest like game dev ever, but very, very talented game dev people I know speak very highly of him and his talents, and I respect those people's opinions. So I'm gonna put a little bit of hope that Bill's been able to kind of throw down and do the thing. Plus, he has giant career of experience behind him, so he's been around. He's seen some stuff.
Speaking of how things might have changed since Jeffrey left and Steven was acting as lead game designer, and now we have Bill Trost coming in as lead game designer. I did, based on stuff that was happening, talked about in the forums, jumped into our episode 18, which was, I think, 3 after Steven was on for the first time. We actually had a episode on risk versus reward. It's very interesting to go back and watch. So you can see us talking about that with Zog.
It's
just interesting.
That sounds like fun. Actually, maybe I should.
Have we changed opinions? I don't understand.
Just watch it. I don't want to go into it too much, but it's just a very interesting watch to go back and see. I forgot we had a whole episode on risk versus reward, like for episode 18. And we're at 104 right now. So it's just interesting to go back and watch. But yeah, so we have this coming up. I'm definitely interested in seeing. I would love to get Bill Trost on for this next dev live stream. Are you hoping it's about nodes? Would you be satisfied if it's a PowerPoint demo?
No.
Oh yeah, if it's got all of the details and everything. A PowerPoint doesn't just mean a crappy slideshow. What can go into a PowerPoint in this day and age? Pretty amazing. You can put a damn good presentation in a PowerPoint. So I don't actually think the term, saying that putting in a PowerPoint or whatever is really a correct way to phrase it, because you can make some absolutely amazing things. You could probably compose an entire movie if you've got all the clips pre-edited using PowerPoint. It's it can do stuff.
I mean, if they do similar to Freeholds, I think the Freeholds was fine. How they did sort of an introduction with some slides and some discussion and plans for what they'll do through beta and alpha, whatever, and then followed by actual in-game play. I think if they do that, that's fine. I think if they come on and it's just a bunch of theory and a bunch of paper and words on a screen and maybe some placeholder art, like I think that would just be terrible. And I think they know that, and that's probably why we were delayed a month, because they wanted to make this perfect. Because as much as Freeholds riled everyone up, I think even more rides on nodes, because we've talked about this. That's the main thing back in Kickstarter. That's what sold me on this, was nodes. That's what everyone's been waiting for, because that's what sets it apart. Like if nodes isn't done right, this is just another MMO, and that has a story that you might want to play through. Beyond that, it's just like everything else. Nodes is really what has to be done correct. And then I think because you're so close to, theoretically, to Alpha 2, I don't know how close, I don't know why I use the word close, but I think if we get to a purely PowerPoint presentation, people are just going to freak out that this game is never coming out. So
it's, as far as I'm concerned, if they aren't giving us theory and they aren't giving us what we want to do, but they're showing us this is what we are and have been implementing and have somewhat implemented already. This is the path we've taken. Let us explain it. And we're doing it this way to reveal certain parts of it, but at the same time, maybe not put too much forward into it. On my bingo card, though, for the next episode is going to be the Alpha 2 release date, announcement date. Not the release date. The release date, announcement date. When, perhaps next year, we're going to get the Alpha 2 announcement. That's on my bingo card.
I think it's on mine because I don't think they know.
You know, it's not that they necessarily, you know, they don't need to give a specific like date. They could give a quarter or something like Q1 or Q2 or something. But I think one of the things that's been preventing them from being able to move forward with Alpha 2, you know, kind of thinking about all of this stuff, and may or may not have mentioned it in a previous episode, the idea that they needed the node system up and running and working and representative in such a way that we're actually playtesting the system. So if they weren't 100% sure what they were doing until they had somebody come through and help them design it until they actually got to implementing it, I could understand if they didn't want to try to do anything related to announcements of gameplay until they got that critical system working. There could still be other critical systems that they need to work on. There could be like a major overhaul of crafting and resources that still needs to be done. But at this point, I don't know what on a technical side, other than having the node system working, would stop them from being able to at least get a lot of the basics that they would want to get from having us go in and test and mash around in the environment and shift the world and, you know, force some changes in the way players would do instead of just having an AI simulation do. That's the sort of thing that I would hope that, well, we've got nodes in the right place. Now it's time to put some damn players in and throw them at it and see how it goes.
Part of the issue is that Alpha 2 is supposed to be persistent. So it's not like they can just say, okay, we're going to let you in for, I mean, they could and they probably should. But from what they've said, if it's supposed to be persistent, they're not going to want to just have us play for 4 months and then take 2 months break as they fix some stuff. And
they could just not do an update for 2 months.
No,
they can literally just do that during the alpha at any time. They can say, all right, there's not going to be an update for 2 months, or not even tell us that that's the plan. Just, yep, update's coming soon. I know, yeah, it's, you know, we're working real hard 4 weeks in. Yeah, you know, this update's coming along real well. We hit a lot of milestones. 6-week mark. I know you folks are hurting for it. Like, we're going to do an AMA about this one. Then like a week before, it's like, all right, let's do some, you know, it's coming next week. It's like, okay. So they played the game. They stretched it out for 2 months. Meanwhile, we were just sitting there playing the same build and whatever other data they were able to get out of that. They might have been doing incremental, like little server updates and stuff while reworking the mechanics of another system. So there could still be little like fix-its here and there while they completely overhaul the entire system behind the curtains and then just drop it on us 2 months later.
Yeah, that's what Landmark said about EverQuest Next. So I don't know if that's the route to go. But yeah, I wonder too. So I guess I would in some ways hope we see some in-game exploration of nodes similar to Freeholds, in that if it's just a PowerPoint, it might be an indication that you know, we're a little farther away from Alpha 2 than closer to Alpha 2. I think, though, coming up on September, it's probably likely they should probably wait until January, after the holidays, so that our devs can get some rest over the holidays. At this point, it's probably best to wait. But I guess after nodes, a good indicator for Alpha 2 might be a demo of augments, because we haven't seen that. We've seen the active skills, but not augments yet. So that's the other thing that I would be hoping to see before Do we need to see crafting? Crafting demo. I mean, I'm not gonna say don't have one. I'm just wondering if I think that I would expect a crafting demo to have to be showcased before Alpha 2. It would be nice.
If you're subdividing the entire crafting process into 3 layers of profession, then there's a lot to go into that and to make it work, and all but at the same time, when you do that, you have to be able to put it enough to make it interesting. Like, what is it about mining rock that's interesting and intriguing in the same way that putting all the nice touches and making a real nice custom weapon is it in any way comparable to the level of satisfaction? Is it more you're satisfied because you're running around going diggy hole in a bunch of rocks and getting the ore out, and that's your fun, is get all the fun chunks of ore out, stuff them in your fun little bag, play the little Tetris game to put everything in the slots, and then haul it back home as quick as you can to make your big payout. If that's your satisfying gameplay loop, then sure, that's not going to be for everyone. If I personally would have a lot more time, more of a fun time just doing crafting, just mixing and matching different materials and components and functions and rituals and essences and all that sort of stuff to make, not just a good weapon, but to be able to push the limits of specificity and all that sort of stuff.
Here's why I say crafting, because what is the premise of needing PvP? The entire reason we're told PvP is important. Resource, right? And what a resource is used crafting. Like, the crafting is a fundamental part of this game, processing and crafting. That is what's going to drive everything.
And sieges.
Oh yeah, well, but that's what drives sieges. That is what drives all of this. Whether you
need resources to have caravans to get to sieges.
Yeah. So if crafting is terrible, and you don't have people that want to do it, then you've completely lost out on why you even have PvP. If it's such a terrible experience, right? That I don't want to process. Why would I want to freehold? This is terrible. I can't process anything. It's a horrible experience. I'm not saying that's what it will be, but if you don't get processing and crafting down, then there's no real reason to even be focusing so much on PvP.
So the other thing I think about is if there's too much risk in the gathering and processing and transporting side of things, you're going to run into another problem. Why the hell am I going to go with that? Why am I going to do that part of the route? Why am I not just going to get whetstones and potions and other consumables and only buy those and farm all of my stuff from Tower of Carfin and other sorts of places where I can go and farm the gear in the way that they've demonstrated in some of the videos? If you can literally get specific gear drops from places around the world, what do you even need a crafter for? You're engaging in an entire economy crap loop just to get one thing. People have to be risking themselves fighting and dying on the mean streets just to get their ore back to town. That's, and all the markup that's going to come with that. No, I'll just go knock some ghost dudes over at Carfin and get all their clothes and be like, hey, look at that. I'm tough enough. I can do this level content for the moment. Gonna grow out of it in 5 levels.
It's gonna have to be risky so you can be sure you have your adrenaline rush. So it's got to be risky enough for that. So if
I got plenty of adrenaline rush when I get a phone call or something while I'm trying to do a raid. It's like, what the hell? I got to manage 2 things now.
Right. Well, but raid is one thing. This is just, when you're gathering your flowers, you're going to want to have an adrenaline rush for that. So
I don't know. Maybe not.
Would you, if
dopamine hit, sure.
If we're going to have, a demo of crafting before Alpha 2, would a live stream just of artisan covering crafting, processing, and gathering be enough? Or would you want one for crafting specifically, processing specifically, and gathering
I think we need
specifically?
to
You
see.
got to show the whole
I
process.
agree.
But I'm saying, would it be enough to be just one artisan dev live stream, or is it important enough that we split those into three, kind of like we're doing
I
for
want to see it
architecture?
single. I want to
I'm
see it.
okay. Go ahead.
I want to see a character out in the. I want to see him harvesting, running up to a freehold, handing that off to somebody, watching that person then process all of that. Obviously, they'll probably have to speed it up, but and then from the processing component, send that caravan to the metropolis. Actually, see that occur. Maybe not the entire thing, but see it go. Get to the metropolis, someone else picks it up and starts actually crafting. I think you have to see that loop in its entirety. I could care less about a full show on. Well, I guess we have seen gathering. We've not really seen processing. We've seen the theory of processing.
I don't think we've really seen like the nuance and details of gathering that they actually expect and intend to put in the game. Like we know some of it, but like I don't know a little bit more of the details on how to specify for volume or certain materials or any of that sort of stuff. I would be fine if they did 3 separate videos to emphasize more of the roles in the whole process for each of the different tiers of artisanry, but each one of them should still show how you interface with the other ones. But at the same time, just make one video that shows all 3 processes. You can talk about, I was able to make this and then get this one from the market doing like this. I'll show you how it works, or shows the trade interface, how you would get it off another player. Then show the processing. Yes, if it takes time, you can fast forward part of it or whatever, play some funny music, show a clip of Steven getting pied in the face or something. After that, you go to the crafting phase with your materials that have then been gathered and processed, and show what the actual interface is. What are the different details? What are the nuances? What are the ins and outs? What makes it more than click on an item of a certain type, know that you've got the kind of materials to craft it, press the craft button and pray. Like, that's kind of the stuff that I really want to know. You don't have to show us all of every system. If masterwork means you have the ability to see every last attribute of the crafting system and you don't want to show us that that's what it means, well, don't show us that. You can tell us, you can, maybe inklings of the screenshot or something, but whatever the systems that are going to be available to artisans of different types at different levels for the different sorts of things they're gathering and processing and crafting, that's a lot to be able to see. I would almost rather them do it more like item specific, like the life of a new piece of armor, or the life of a potion in a batch of potions, or something like that, to look at the different end paths of the loop and then kind of what are the different parts and processes, so we have a better idea of what each of the different professions, at the artisan, at the making the things level, where all the stuff in the backstream is.
Riddles is in our chat. It says that it's his first time contributing. So welcome. He's been on the forums quite a bit, so it's been fun having him around lately. I think he's been lurking for a while, actually, on the forums. Not super active before, but lately he's been very active and it's made the forums a lot of fun. He was saying that that would be a very long stream if we did it the way Phantom X said. And I think probably I would agree that one that has everything would probably be long. If we think about it the way they've been doing, if we think about Artisans the way they've been doing Adventurer, it does seem to me that it would be very nice to have those split. I mean, how many times have we seen Cleric, and we've seen Mage twice, we've seen Tank twice. We can expect they might show those two a third time, since they've shown Cleric a third time, and we're still waiting to see Fighter, we're still waiting to see Rogue. So if they're splitting artists, I mean, if they're doing that for Adventure, it would be nice to do that for to some degree, at least in terms of crafter, processor, gatherer for Artisan. And then also, I think, like you were saying, Phantom X, kind of like we had the different weapon showcases, melee weapons, or I even forget how they did it, because I think we had two different ones. But we had one with the fighter.
There was the one with the bow that was like a ranger contextualized one. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if we had something like that for Artisans, that would be nice. And then, but that would be like at least 4 dev streams, if not 5. So that just makes me curious again about how many dev live streams we can expect before we get into Alpha 2. Seems like we will have probably 4 months at least after this one, but we'll see.
Well, I'm guessing the success or not of this node stream will dictate a lot on when Alpha 2 likely is to occur.
What do you mean by that? What kind of success?
Oh, I think they're either going to be reassured that they're on track with things, or they're not. And I think if they have another outburst like they've had, so I keep mentioning freeholds. There were a lot of complaints, concerns, but even the last combat stuff, there's been a lot of people. It's always hard to say, is it the vocal minority, but I think, again, seeing how some of these other games have been rated or talked about when they're not released yet, I think just makes everyone very nervous about Alpha 2. So I don't know. I don't think that they even know at this point, though. I know that's on your bingo card, as you say, but they don't even know when they're going to end the last item swap, right? It starts September 13th is the last package, pre-order package, and they don't know when it's going to end. Like, it's not been told. It's not, presumably not a month, because they didn't say it would end like normal, for after a month. It's like, well, we don't know when it will end. So if they don't even know when their last pre-order package is going to end, and I assume that's because they're just trying to get as many more purchases out of it as they can before they shut it off. I don't know that they have a really great idea of when Alpha 2 will be. So,
yeah, well, they said they're putting in. They said they're putting an end to the packages because they have enough testers.
I agree.
Their number for their testers. So
I agree.
But yeah, so what would we have to have in Alpha 2? Did you think that they're going to have to make significant changes to freeholds based on feedback?
I think they're going to test what they have, and if it continues to be thought of as it was on the stream, then yes. Because as Stephen has put it, they will not change the core pillars. Freeholds are not a core pillar. They are a apparatus that makes core pillars function. But
they're going to tweak everything.
Correct.
It's just they're not going to get rid of stuff. So,
but we don't even know how things work. I mean, that was my complaint about people complaining was, well, we really haven't even been told enough yet. Like, yes,
the family system was definitely an irksome one. Like, there's 2 reasons, not just the like ick factor. Ew, I don't want to be like related to my guild leader. That's gross. but then also the fact that it's such a peculiar system to be organizing a potentially financial sort of thing around. And like, yes, marriage is a financial institution, whatever, but like I think it's weird that you can't have it managed and operated in a way differently than adding somebody to your family as the only method to give somebody permissions. That seems wacky. If you've got like a contract system that's already built into the game, it makes sense that you would just be using a contract-based system. You know? So I think that was a lot of feedback from a lot of people, was that specific point is like, why families? Why come families? I know you're going to have the guild hall sort of things that are going to be guild managed, but you know, why do houses have to be done this weird way? Why can't they be managed in a different sort of system? And then the other thing I think about that is that I don't necessarily know if I want people to be able to, you know, there's some part of it I'm sure is with the instant teleport system. I'm not necessarily sure I want everybody in my family to be able to go to this residence in particular that I work on with certain other people in a dangerous part of town that you might get ganked outside of. You know, I wouldn't have any control over that sort of thing. So that's why I definitely would like to, you know, I would like to see that being revised. A lot of people had a lot of valid concerns and complaints and issues, but there was definitely a lot of knee jerk and a lot of the, as we've talked about, you really can't satisfy everyone. You got to do what you can to satisfy the players that you're trying to cater to. But if you try to satisfy everyone, you aren't going to satisfy anyone. So, you know, I get that some of the complaining might be from people that are just on the other side of the coin. They want something different and they wanted something different. And now that it's been revealed that what they wanted is completely different than what they were expecting or hoping for, you know, some of the knee jerk from that.
Yeah, I mean, I do. Well, I don't want to rehash freeholds, so I won't. But yeah, I will say I have one last live stream. I asked the question: would guild members allowing them to have privileges on your freehold count towards your family cap? What was it, 8, 9 if you're married? They did not answer it, but it was like one of those things where we were hoping to get to it. So if you ask it again, so I did make it my question again. And if it is independent of the family system, meaning you could have like 15 people have access to your processing equipment, I think that will calm down a lot of people. So. Oh, yes. Diggs has fans everywhere, so I do not have chat listed on this yet. We do for our Chronicles of PAX Day. I have not yet created a setup to have chat on our layout here, but it is one of those people who loves to tell Diggs, "Why are you talking about a game you don't intend to play?" Man,
but he does intend to play it. We already know this has been a change. If you haven't been watching, maybe you don't know. Diggs is going to play the game in the Care Bear Challenge format. I don't know where you're not going to play the game stuff is coming from. He just didn't know how he was going to play it. Now he knows how he's going to play it. It's awesome. I plan to play the game. I think Phantom X is planning to like ruin a community or two. So, you know, he's going to play the game.
Sure. Given the opportunity.
I mean, those two, you guys have the lifetimes. I was the cheapskate that decided not to get it because I was like, you know, I don't know about this one. I see this other game that I already put money in. And it's like, well, but put money on the wrong horse. But whatever, here we are.
How long ago was that stream that everyone is still so pissed off at you about? That was last year, right?
I think he's still been talking about it earlier this year.
Yeah. Because I only found a way to.
Did you even say that when? I think you might have said that when Steven was on.
No, I think it was before Steven was on. I think I found a way to play before Steven was on.
Oh, okay.
Diggs intends to play. He's going to let you kill him if you want. I'm going to try to talk them into creating it, either making it an achievement within the game, or I have thought of the idea of paying for the NPC to be created and making it a Diggs NPC, since we can't kill NPCs, and people would just have to sit around while he gives them cake. I think that would be excellent. And so,
no, not even cake. He would just have cake batter. He's just a processor that sits there making cake batter. It's like, here, cake batter.
Yeah, so you don't even actually get the cake.
You don't even get the cake. You just get the batter.
Yeah, I knew you could turn it into a quest. Make him a quest giver where you're going to get some cake. You got to go get the items. You turn them into him, and then it's no, never mind. You're not going to get your cake.
There you go.
So, I'm eager for Alpha 2 just to see what everyone does when they see Diggs' name in the game, because we did not have this during Alpha 1, because that statement had not been made during Alpha 1. That's been in between. And so now, for those of you who are not in Discord or some of the others, there are a small group of people who have decided to rise up and defend Diggs. And so as he does his Care Bear challenge, he now has a group of people that will be following him around to PvP you should you try to kill him. So see, the fun of the game has already started.
Let me ask you this, though, Diggs. In terms of leveling up, are you going to look for constellations? Are you going to avoid constellations? Are they happen when they happen? Because I'd imagine they're going to give you adventuring experience. It's going to force your level up. So are you basically like eyes on the ground the whole time?
I think it's just going to be, I'll just be trying to explore the entire map, and I'll just gain experience from that. So, I mean, whatever experience comes from that, but I won't be seeking any leveling experience.
I suppose if you don't invest any of your skill points or anything, you just keep yourself as austere as possible. You're essentially you're basically a level 1 with higher stats.
I wonder. So I could invest skill points maybe if I was getting them.
Well, as you level up, you'd be accumulating them, I'd imagine.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, progression. I mean, my progression goal is to stay as close to level 1 as possible. But if I have enough skill points to invest them in stuff, I'm sure I'll invest them in stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I assume there'll be exploration XP that you'll go to.
Yeah, you won't. Level. You won't go a quarter of the way around the world without getting to level 5, I bet.
But it's interesting though because we never de-level. Right, because experience debt. So if people kill me a bunch, then I'll have a ton of experience debt theoretically.
That's true.
But you don't de-level. So any levels that I gain, I mean, I would just have those now, the skill points associated with those. But yeah, that's going to be part of the interesting part, right? What happens?
Well, yeah, we'll see. We kind of touched on it. We're towards the back end of our time here. There was a post, since we haven't done our show for 3 weeks, so there was the new items were put out. Pre-order package, and there have been told September 13th will be the release of the last pre-order package. We do not know how long that will run for, which is again why I say I don't think they exactly know when Alpha 2 will start. It has a Halloweenish theme, I think is what they've said. So my guess is the reason they've not given an end date is because it's just going to be sometime after Halloween. What was very interesting that I wanted to, the reason I'm bringing this up, because I'm sure anybody who watches this already knows this, that your chance to purchase a Alpha 2 beta and beta 2 key is going to be going up in smoke here soon, is that the last number 6 on their FAQ, I'm very curious about this and what everyone thinks. So it says that The question is, when the pre-order packs end, will there be other items on the Ashes of Creation shop? The answer to that was, quote, we may have cosmetic items and merchandise available in the Ashes of Creation shop at a future date. So I'm curious about two things there. May have and future date. I mean, we've had cosmetics every month for how long now?
For a long time, years and years.
Yeah. So I'm curious what that means. Hopefully there's some clarification on that, because it sure as hell sounds like they're kind of going to be done with cosmetics for a little bit. Which also makes me wonder if that's the case. You know, certainly they've said the reason for ending pre-order packages is they've reached their player allotment that they want. I also wonder how much of it is asset creation that they've been doing this. And I mean, can anyone? I would be very curious if someone could do this. If we could go back through all of the skins from the very beginning and count up how many there have been to purchase, and then actually look at how many have we been shown. I would guess it is under 10%, under 5% probably of what has been purchasable has actually been shown, which again makes me wonder about this question, like why they would even put it in there. Because I don't think this would be a question anyone would necessarily ask, because the FAQ is really about the pre-order, the alpha access going away. So why they felt the need to put in a question about cosmetics going forward, it makes me very curious. So
that's yeah, trying to find where they actually started in terms of the date.
Because I know we say one of the bonuses here is they're having to create the assets for the world anyways, so this is sort of making money twice off the same thing. But we really haven't seen a lot of the cosmetics, so I wonder how much of this is too. They're like, well, we've got a lot of shit to create. We probably should just quit selling things for a little bit. And the third thought I have too is have the packs, purchasing the packs actually just dwindled to a point of like, all right, this is just turning more of a hassle at this stage. So let's just turn it off because we're really not getting much out of it anymore either.
Yep. Don't know.
So.
Oh, this is a good time to talk about that lore thing, because somebody recently with that hearse, they were asking, I think there was a Twitter question about how you would like to have your body interred when the hearse comes to pick up your body, and people were like, oh, does that mean that, my body gets to, and they're like, no, that's just lore. You're going to be ashes. It's just a lore thing. So apparently we still have some people not realizing that that's just flavor text for that they include when they show a skin.
I think that is a lot of the people. Now, is that a lot of the people that have actually purchased skins? I don't know, but certainly on Twitter and Instagram, when they post these things, I think a lot of people are unaware that these items don't actually give you anything. And we've talked about that several times, that I feel like that is not the best ethical marketing process, to where you make it sound very much like these items have a role and actually have some sort of function in the game. And then you have to kind of scroll for that fine text that says, oh, this is flavor text. Does not actually offer benefit, cosmetic only. I don't know. Obviously, they're going to keep doing what they want to do, so that's fine. But yes, I completely would understand if there's a bunch of people out there that don't understand. Every time they do mounts, they do these pets and things. I would imagine most of the people are thinking they get some sort of actual gameplay benefit versus just a skin. But
I was watching Asmongold look at the Freehold video, And I think they mentioned animal husbandry and the benefits from that you can right, you can alter how much meat you get from your cows or pigs, or how many eggs you get from your chickens. You can also alter the kinds of combat abilities your mounts have, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we get to do that. Mounts are going to have abilities. How does all that work?" Um, so that's maybe another thing. Even if we were just talking about animal husbandry, if we're um, getting a dev live stream about just what we can do with um, is that processing? That's processing. I don't
Animal
know. Is that
husbandry?
is that processing?
Yeah, I thought it was processing.
I don't understand what falls under each. So I think I'd just like to know that, because I don't think I know yet which
I
things
mean,
fall
maybe
under
I can't
crafting,
remember.
which things
Maybe
fall under
the husbandry is the processing, and maybe the training is the actual crafting part or something.
Yeah. In the freehold video, we did see some UI with crafting, with a list of some of the stuff that falls under crafter. So I would love to see that list for gathering and processing as well, because I just think of it all as crafting, really. But
Artisanship, not crafting. You do have a blanket umbrella term.
Exactly. Yep. Which is artisanship. Yep.
Well, we're almost out of time. I'm trying to think of anything else with the nodes. I hope it's a home run. I don't know. I feel like this is what I've been waiting for. Diggs has been asking for nodes 3 for how many years? So at least the last 2 interviews with Steven literally starts off with, when is nodes 3?
Everyone. I think everyone. Every single time we've had him on, I think.
And what I was trying to remember, we're talking about this earlier in chat. It's been how long? 2 years now since they did the last node stream that they did was a tech demo, where they were showing how they could spawn out basically different cities and villages and metropolis. And I think they were showing that they even showed some of the racial influence as well. And that's been at least 2 years ago. So I'm hopeful, fingers crossed.
Was that after Alpha? Was that after Alpha 1?
That's a great question. I think so. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah. Because we did see a little bit of stuff in Alpha 1 with nodes, but it wasn't a ton.
Yeah, Unreal 5
it was
has
basically just place A builds up, place B isn't able to build up. Hey, node system. That was basically what it was in Alpha 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we better see everything. See the transition from a little village to a town to a metropolis. I mean, all of it. The change of the NPCs, the structure, the racial changes, all of that. I mean, there needs
That
to
would be a lot.
Well,
that would be a lot.
That's the central core pillar to one of their core pillars. So, what other core pillars have we seen that have? So we've seen PvP. Well, they say PvP, but that's more meaningful conflict, is what it was. But
well, he talks a lot about risk versus reward. We did get that
nodes.
Event system, which is kind of narration.
Yeah, I was going to say narrative, economy, economy, meaningful conflict, and nodes. So those are their pillars.
Well, it's risk versus reward. Meaningful conflict was, but at the moment, risk versus reward is their.
Yeah, well, that's their PvP thing, which really has been the only thing we've seen. We've really not seen narrative. We've really not seen any of the financial stuff either. I mean, how many people remember that one of the Kickstarter bonuses was a whole stock exchange system? Like, how many people actually remember that?
Right. We haven't heard. That's a good question to talk about. That's something that we need to ask somewhere, is how that's going. But no, I was gonna say Fiddles that I was gonna mention you want to see dungeons opening up, which is gonna be awesome. Yeah, if we could see, I think that would be a lot. But I think that is one of the things we want to see is how uh, node progression is going to change the mobs in the area, but also, yeah, how that's going to populate dungeons. That's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot.
It is a lot, but it's core to their game. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. And they've delayed a month, so either that's just because it's a lot, or they just felt very not prepared. I hope it's just that it's a lot, and they had a lot to put together. I don't know. We'll see. I don't get real down on Ashes. I mean, it's a game in development. Things fluctuate, but this is one for me that's super important because it's key to, I think, any of the questions that have ever been on the forums, like, why did you come to Ashes? And I think there was one that was like, PvE players, why did you decide to back Ashes as a PvP game? Sorry, PvP
X.
No, PvP game. And
it's a PvX game.
It's stupid terms, but anyways, it was always nodes was the reason why. So this is an important part. So yeah, classic Ashes semantics. I don't care about PvX, PV. Where does X even come from?
That's
experience. Player versus experience.
I mean, wouldn't it still be PvE because E is everything? Like, what does X even stand for?
E is environment. It's not everything.
No, it can be both. It starts with an E. So what starts with an X? PV. What does X stand for?
Experience.
X does not equal everything. There isn't even an X in the word everything.
Experience. Player versus experience.
Which has
the experience of the game. You're battling against the experience of the game.
I don't care if PvX is a super old term. What does it stand for? What does the X mean?
Wow, nice.
No, actually, if you want to know that history, it's because Phantom X is a comic book character, has multiple personalities, spelled actually Fant OMEX, TOMEX, and at some point somebody said you will probably not be allowed to have that character name because it is a trademark character, and so I shortened it. So that's how that happened. But anyways, there's X. I do not accept the idea that X equals everything.
Hey, but that's another show. We're going to be here for another hour if we literally get into that topic. So I'm saying nothing.
We should write that one down, pin that one in the Discord to come back to for
what it is,
what the X is in PvX.
I just want to know what the X stands for.
That is what it stands for.
It makes no sense.
You can Google it. It doesn't have to make sense.
All right.
The phrase "pretty ugly" doesn't make sense either, but we have it.
Well, yeah, it does.
Pretty ugly.
Yeah, but
only in U.S.
You're right. This probably is another show. I do not accept the premise though that X stands for everything. X is not even in the word everything. So, that being said, we are now back on track after a couple of weeks. So we will wrap up for tonight. And there is a big node. When is it? Thursday? Is that right? What day is it?
Yes, Thursday.
Thursday. So we will be catching that, and we will be obviously talking about that on Sunday because it is going to be huge. They also just announced that Steven is going to be on another show.
All right.
And
on September 10th. September 10th.
Okay. And that is with
I forgot the name of it, but we have time. We can announce that. We have a show.
Discussion Round. That's the name of the show. And they have it all linked out. So another Ashes creation. They've been around, it said 6 years.
Yeah.
So I'll have to go back through and kind of visit what they've been doing. But so
6-year anniversary.
Yeah. So Steven is already setting up stuff. I wonder if that's the other interview they had talked about when they announced ours. They had mentioned there was a second one they were trying to get working out. So I assume that's it. But anyways, y'all have a great week, and we will be back here Sunday at our normal time. And obviously, always catch us in Discord on the forums. Super interesting to see how freeholds, how nodes ends up. So yeah. So everyone have a great week, and we will see you back here next Sunday.
Well then, have a good one, everybody.